So, welcome to Sanitation Station. We're going to sanitize all of the things that need to be sanitized. Not everything needs to be sanitized. I brought everything here and then I realized I have my trusty paddle. In the end, the things that need to be sanitized are the things that are going to touch the beer after we're done with the boil. The boil is going to kill everything. This thing is only going to see the grain and the mash that's before the boil, so the paddle, we don't need to. We might want to clean it, but we mostly don't need to sanitize it. Magic stick. This used to be a magic stick. This is how it used to work back in the old days. They didn't know about yeast, but mine is clean enough that I doubt there's any yeast living on my paddle. Eventually, my beer will end up in here. It definitely smells like it's had beer in it. There's a little bit of muck in the bottom that you probably can't see on camera. And then there's definitely dirt in my sanitizing planter. So we're going to get some water, wash these things out, and then move on to sanitation. Here you can see many of our accoutrements that we'll end up needing. These will all need to get sanitized, so for measuring gravity, measure the temperature of several different things that we're going to need to measure temperature of along the way. The mash tank has its own thermometer, but there are times when it's not the most reliable and we'll have to go to an external temperature gauge. And then we've got our ungraduated graduated cylinder, and we have a airlock for once everything is in a bucket. So that's all gonna need to get sanitized. We have our cooling coil. Cooling coil needs to get sanitized because this is going into the drink after the boil, which technically will probably sanitize it, but why take risks? For the time being, it's gonna go wherever. We won't need this, but this is for bottling. Bottling wand has a little lock on the bottom. Maybe you'll get to see that at some point. Top of the bucket. And then, as I promised, this is full of trash and evidence of the fact that I make bread. So this also needs to get washed. So that's a nice first pass wash. If I thought something was actually particularly grungy, I would go at it with a detergent, but I largely know what's been in here and I'm not super worried about it. So now we move on to sanitation. Of course, after we move everything back around with the bucket. Why the bucket? The bucket is a nice way to measure out 5 gallons of water, and the prescribed sanitation is 1 of these little ounces worth of sanitizer per 5 gallons of water. Now, I will do it the better way, which is, although I'm measuring out my sanitizer first, I'm going to measure the water into the bucket first and then add the sanitizer. Now, if you do it the other way, it'll work just fine, except you'll make a giant pile of foam and that just makes everything more irritating to deal with. I tend to try to use warm water for this rather than cold. So here we go. Okie dokie. Well, in it goes. Woo! Now, getting this stuff on your hand is probably not the most fun ever, although it's not going to be too bad for you, but it is at least a little bit caustic. But once it's in 5 gallons of water, this is whatever. Now, my hand is also thoroughly sanitized, so all you little COVID-19 buggers are dead now. But you're a little bit better off using something to do transfer of this liquid onto sensitive surfaces, so that you know cloths and certain types of sponges are preferable. The most common yellow sponges that you'll buy at the store, those will dissolve in about 1 or 2 uses of this particular sanitizing agent. About 30 seconds of contact with surfaces will get you sanitized, which means most of the bucket is already sanitized. Probably want to make sure that the lip is washed. So that's the bucket. Now we'll get to see the foam. So we can let that rest and be sanitized. We're not going to need any of this for a while. So the one thing that I do like to do, dig out the top of the bucket, give it a little bit of rinse, make sure it's nice and thoroughly sanitized, and drop it on top of the bucket so things don't fall in there while we're just sitting around. Cheers.